All right, it's 9:30. We're going to get started. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the joint Metro North and Long Island Railroad Committee meeting. As always, we're going to start off with public comments. I'll hand it over to Susan Sarch to let us know and to handle that for us.
Good morning. We have five public comments this morning. Five public speakers this morning. As a reminder to each of the public speakers, you have 2 minutes for your comments, and please limit your comments to 2 minutes. Our first speaker is Jason Anthony.
Good morning, Kevin, and good morning, Catherine, and good morning to the rest of the Commuter Rail board members. Jason Anthony from the Amazon Labor Union. Two things that I want to bring to your attention, and I know that Andrew Albert will be very observant to one of the details. One, on page 8 of the board book, my name is associated to another organization that I'm not part of anymore. And second, we should be in full force with Freedom Ticket. It is time to expand Freedom Ticket beyond Brooklyn. It is time to give those residents of the West Bronx their fair share too, like Riverdale, Mobile Hill 225, their fair share too, because oftentimes they have service disruptions on the one line. So why not give the Hudson line the version of Freedom Ticket? So Cassie, it's your turn to give Metro North a Freedom Ticket. So you have a lot of catch up to do, Kathy. So let's see if we could do that. I'll see you guys in transit.
Thank you. Our next public speaker is Lisa Daglian.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Daglian, Executive Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. This morning, we're going to continue our call for more flexible ticket types for railroads and their riders that better reflect the way people are commuting these days. We're also going to appeal to your competitive nature. For the past year, including during the fare hearings, the LIRR Commuter Council and Metro North Railroad Commuter Council have been calling for 20 trip tickets at a 20% discount with longer expiration dates than the traditional 10 trips. Since then, much has changed, but thankfully for the better. More people are returning to work, schools have reopened, we're cautiously going about our daily lives in our new normal. Yet many people continue to work on a hybrid schedule and don't take the same advantage of monthly tickets. Your numbers bear that out. More people are also traveling for leisure on weekends and during off-peaks, which should only increase as Broadway and concerts continue to reopen. A monthly just doesn't work for them, and 10 trips just don't last, making it inconvenient. We're concerned that too many people are too inconvenienced in their driving. That's something our region can ill afford on many levels. Instead, a 20 trip with a 20% discount would be a great incentive to get people back on the rails. It offers a lot of flexibility, and you could call it FlexPass, except that NJ Transit already has that exact option with the exact name. New Jersey Transit beat the MTA. This is where the competition could get exciting. You could one-up them with a much catchier offering and slogan. When it comes to new commutation patterns, the MTA's vision is a perfect 2020. 20 trips at 20% off of peak fares. Commuters would be the real winners, and it would be nice to give New Jerseyites yet another thing to be jealous about. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public speaker is Murray Bowden.
I'm Murray Bowden. It's with some sadness I get to speak to you today. Could talk about the Breakneck Ridge hiking trail, which I've hiked probably 20 times. But overall, I have to talk about global warming because everybody seems to be ignoring it and what you do. I brought this to show you today. It's a package from Amazon. It's their newest packaging. It's all paper, no plastic. You put it in with the cardboard boxes. That's an example how Amazon is addressing reducing waste and global warming and using less fossil fuels. Everything you do here today and in the future needs to be done under the understanding that global warming is destroying the planet. You need to reduce the use of concrete and any extraneous whatever that can be eliminated. It's going to be tough. My family was in the cleaning business for 95 years, dry cleaning being the latest iteration of it. I'm the fourth generation. My son is getting out as quickly as he can. So those people who say, I've been in business for generations and I'm going to lose my business, you're looking at one of them. The Bowden family will not be doing cleaning anymore. And those of you who will also lose your businesses, it's called global warming. You have to deal with it. I'm out of here.
Thank you. Our next public speaker is Chris Grief.
Thank you. For the record, it's Greif. I do cause grief, but I'm not here for that. My name is Christopher D. Greif, and I'm here to support the Freedom Ticket because since we have it in Atlantic, going from Atlantic Avenue to Jamaica to Rosedale and Queens Village, it works. It works very well, and I have seen a lot of people using it. But I agree with Lisa Daclia and Jason. We need it more on the Metro North, continue extending it on the Long Island Railroad, because people can travel where they like to go. Like, for example, Rosedale is not far from the border of Nassau that goes to the Green Acres Mall. It will take some congestion off from all those heavy cars and take some pressure off on the MTA buses. Queens Village is one of them because there is a Queens Developmental Center, which is called the Bernard Fine Center. We need to make sure they can get to work, and they actually do use the Atlantic ticket. And they say, what a difference. It makes it easier for them to travel and get to where they have to go safely and easy. And I hope we will continue doing that on the Metro North. So, Kathy, we need to work on the Metro North end as well as Phil. We need to work on it on the Long Island Railroad for the Port Washington branch, because you do have lots of passengers who want to go a little faster and not always have to wait for another bus that is overcrowded. We have to work on this now because the congestion right now outside traffic is severely dangerous, and we need to work on it. This Freedom Ticket will definitely work on it for a lot of people to get on buses and trains and Long Island Railway Metro North. So please support this 1,000,000%. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public speaker is Deborah Greif.
Good morning. My name is Deborah Greif. Yes, I am related to Mr. Greif. And I first want to say, I want to thank the Long Island Railroad because I love doing the Freedom Ticket. And I also want to thank you. I love Long Island Cares. It is such a pleasure with my walker not to worry that I'm going to fall through the gap. I'm going to have trouble getting on or off the train. And I love that the conductors make sure that I'm sitting in a seat or an area that I need to be. And I usually like when they put me near the restroom, because there are times I am not going to climb up and down steps. I'm using a walker because I did break my foot for the 6th time. I had a concussion, and my doctor doesn't want me carrying heavy stuff. He says, you let the walker do the carrying. So I want that to be expanded to Metro North. And it would be a fantastic thing because this way I wouldn't have to worry about getting on or off. And it also, the conductors at Long Island Railroad tell me which part of the platform to be at, so I'll be safe. That's a very, very important issue. And 2, yes, put Freedom Ticket for Metro North. Then I can go visit New York Botanical Gardens and the Bronx Zoo. I have friends who would love to be able to do that. You can save a lot of money because, as you see, besides being disabled and senior, I rely on half fare to get me around. The Freedom Ticket is even cheaper, and I would love for you to expand it to Metro North. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comments.
Thank you. There we go. Thank you, Susan. Thank you to our public speakers, and I want to thank the men and women of the Long Island Railroad and New York City Transit who got me here safely today and on time. We'll go right to our agenda. The summary of the actions are in your board books. First item for approval is the approval of the minutes from September 13th, 2021. Bob Lynn moves, and Frank seconds.
Hey, Kevin.
Oh.
Jason had said that there was an issue with respect to how he was reflected in the minutes.
I'm going to get the motion on the table.
Perfect,
then
thank you.
So we got a motion, we got a second. Let's the minutes reflect Jason's comments. Does anybody else have any other comments, revisions, or additions? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Thank you. Sorry? That was efficient. Very good. Thank you. Work plans are in your books. Any changes, Kathy, to the Metro North workbook?
No, there are no changes to the Metro North work plan.
Rob Free is filling in for Phil Eng today. Rob, any changes to Long Island Railroad?
No changes, Kevin.
Thank you, Rob. So we'll get right to the agency president's reports. We'll start with Metro North and Kathy.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Law. My report this month will be a little bit similar to last month, focusing on 2 priority areas: service delivery and the continued cleanup and recovery efforts from the remnants of Hurricane Ida, and secondly, our ridership trends and the initiatives that we have underway to welcome more riders back. So first, we'll talk a little bit about service. As I reported last month, the remnants of Hurricane Ida unleashed record-setting rains during the overnight of September 1st to September 2nd and disrupted train service, especially on the Hudson Line, for days. Again, I'd like to express my thanks to all the employees who worked tirelessly through the day and night and day, and we were able to restore some train service on the Harlem and New Haven lines on September 3rd. The Hudson Line experienced the most significant damage from Ida, and our customers continue to experience the impacts on service while restoration work remains ongoing. Our teams worked around the clock to perform the necessary track, power, and signal work between Glenwood and Greystone stations in the city of Yonkers. That restored 2 of our 4 tracks to service on Tuesday, September 7th, and another track to service on Monday, September 13th. Work to restore the remaining track immediately adjacent to where the waters cascaded down the slope from Warburton Avenue at multiple locations was completed last Monday, October 11th. Up to that point, maintenance of way crews had been hard at work removing debris and mud from the tracks, replacing ties, installing stone ballast, resurfacing the track bed, cleaning out existing culverts, replacing damaged third rail, creating a ditch for drainage purposes along our track, and testing our signal system. In addition to the mudslide location, there was significant washout of the entire culvert just north of our Dobbs Ferry station. We've been able to implement a temporary fix that allows service to run over 2 of the 4 tracks in that location. However, it will take months for permanent repairs to be completed on the remaining 2 tracks. These 2 tracks on an approximately 6-mile stretch between Greystone and Tarrytown stations will remain out of service while crews continue significant restoration work, which is being overseen by the C&D Group. To accommodate this work, on September 20th, we implemented a new schedule on the Hudson Line that more closely reflects actual travel times, making trips much more reliable as the permanent repairs continue. The pre-Ida service frequencies were restored on the Hudson Line, with weekday service returning to 82% of pre-pandemic levels and weekend service to 100% of pre-pandemic levels. I cannot emphasize enough the incredible efforts that have been put forth by our crews throughout these locations. It is because of those efforts that we were able to resume those pre-Ida service levels. I also want to thank our Hudson Line customers and the communities that we serve in these areas for their patience and understanding while we complete the restoration work caused by the storm. While taking on these challenges, on-time performance during the month of September stood at 95%. We are at 97.4% year-to-date. Hudson Line service in the month of September was at 92%. The Harlem Line performed at 94.3%, and the New Haven Line stood at 97.1%, forgive me. September's west of Hudson service operated at 91.8% on time. Year-to-date is slightly below goal at 93.4%. In addition to the incredible work that our crews have been performing following Ida, they have also been busy throughout our system maintaining our infrastructure and continuing to bring it to a state of good repair, as reported in the quarterly track program update, which is included in today's agenda. Highlights in the report include the following. We've replaced more than 43,000 railroad ties, installed 7 miles of new rail, and welded over 700 joints so far this year. We've performed ultrasonic rail testing, track geometry testing, and rail grinding to restore the rail profile in 80 miles of rail, while other crews have been busy resurfacing over 95 miles of track to ensure a smooth ride across our territory. We've replaced 22 track switches, including 2 at one of our critical interlockings on the Harlem Line near Hartsdale Station, to improve service reliability and ensure operational flexibility. We also remain hard at work on repairs to overhead vehicular bridges and undergrade bridges that carry our trains. These incredible efforts are due to the hard work of our track and structures personnel, and I thank them for their continued efforts to maintain our infrastructure. In addition, Forces advanced track work on the Port Jervis Line ahead of schedule, which allowed us to resume weekday off-peak train service last Monday in place of substitute busing, which was a week earlier than planned. And train service also resumed on the Waterbury branch in Connecticut following the completion of major infrastructure improvements that our crews began back in June in coordination with the Connecticut Department of Transportation to improve the safety and reliability of Waterbury branch service. This work included the completion of the new signal system that will enable PTC to be operational on the branch by the end of this year. This highlight can be found in our PTC project update, which is included in today's agenda. PTC work also includes software testing that's currently underway to further improve PTC operations in advance of a software release for our M8 fleet at the end of the year in December. Just an update on our fall slipslide preparations. As we continue, or actually we started just this past weekend to experience slipslide rail conditions caused by leaves. This impacts all railroads on the Northeast. These leaves fall onto our tracks and coat the rail with a slimy residue that affects train service. We continue to take a very proactive approach to minimizing delays and inconvenience that are caused by slipslide conditions. Our established process is as follows. Engineers report slippery conditions immediately to our OCC. We've provided additional training on how to operate through these slippery areas and issue notifications to train crews regarding speed restrictions and proper train operations during slipslide conditions. Our enhanced computerized train tracking system allows for automatic reporting of slipslide incidents and conditions, which allows us to take corrective action much more quickly. A wheel impact load detector, a while detector, installed across all 4 tracks in the Park Avenue Tunnel, monitors for wheel flats that may have developed during service and allows us to identify and prioritize wheels for repair. A state-of-the-art wheel-true facility in our Harmon Yard and New Haven Yard can cut both wheels on a truck simultaneously. This allows for proper wheel diameter matching and helps us to return cars to service more quickly so that we always have enough cars available for our customers. Finally, we've also stepped up our effort to keep our right of way as leaf-free as possible. We use 2 large high-pressure rail washers and rail scrubbers to remove crushed leaf residue from the tracks, and onboard sanders on our diesel fleet automatically drop sand on our tracks to help improve traction and reduce wheel slippage when it starts to occur. To make our service more attractive to customers as our ridership continues to grow, we added trains to our Hudson Line weekend schedule on October 2nd, just as the fall foliage season kicked off in the Hudson Valley. The Hudson Valley is gorgeous year-round, but anybody familiar with the area knows that the fall foliage season is a league of its own. To encourage people to enjoy the great weather, beautiful views, and destinations on the Hudson Line, we added 5 trains to the Saturday schedule and 4 trains to the Sunday schedule that will run through November 7th to supplement our regular weekend service and provide more options and more capacity for our customers. Our focus continues to be on restoring ridership, guided by the initiatives in our Way Ahead Moving Forward plan that we launched in June. Hot off the presses, I have information with respect to last week's ridership. Since August 29th, as I've already mentioned, we've been providing 82% of our all-day weekday service. We've surpassed 120,000 weekday riders, a new COVID record. We've had 8 business days in a row with calculated ridership above 120,000. Last week's ridership averaged 126,601 riders a day, which is 48.2% of pre-COVID ridership average in February of 2020. Ridership is on a steady upward trend, 2.9% above the week before, 5.5% above 2 weeks ago, 10.2% above a month ago, and 35.2% above 2 months ago in August when Delta first arrived in the region. Saturday, October 9th, had been our third highest ridership since COVID. This Saturday, we were down slightly, just a little bit, down 7,000 rides from the previous Saturday. But this past Sunday, we set a new COVID record with 69,730 rides, which is 86.8% of a pre-COVID Sunday. So this is all obviously very good to see. In addition to increasing service and travel option, and as more and more riders continue to return to the rails, it's essential that we're doing everything that we can to accommodate them. With this in mind, board members Harry Poor and Randy Glucksman joined me, elected officials, and former board member Susan Metzger to celebrate the completion of the Port Jervis Station improvements out in west of Hudson, making this station fully accessible and giving it a more modern feel as customers west of Hudson continue their return to the railroad. The top-to-bottom transformation in this terminus station included the construction of a one-length high-level platform, a concrete ramp leading from the parking lot to the platform, and a new sidewalk. I'm also excited to announce a very customer-friendly update to our popular Train Time app that will be available on Apple Watches beginning this Friday, October 22nd, and on Android watches soon. Customers will be able to easily save their favorite trips and station information on their Apple Watch for quick, easy, and safe viewing. They will no longer need to look for their phone while traveling on Metro North. Through the creation of bookmarks in the Train Time app on their phone, customers will receive push notifications to their watch, alerting them to track changes, service alerts, and passenger crowding information, which will affect their bookmark trips while saving them and providing a safer overall experience. This information will be available in the leading languages in our territory, which are Spanish, Italian, Chinese, Portuguese, and Yiddish. I thank the Metro North staff who worked in collaboration with MTA IT to provide this companion app for travel information. It's one more tool that will provide our customers with a better travel experience. Speaking of our customers, we are at many stations on a daily basis handing out masks to our customers who may need them. And as part of our mask force tomorrow, I'll be at Tuckahoe Station, joined by Assemblymember Amy Paulin and Senator Shelley Mayer, handing out pink masks in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Staff will also be at Grand Central Terminal, Harlem 125th Street, Peekskill, and Westport stations. Another step we have taken to welcome more riders back and to promote bike use is a bike pod that will now be coming to Grand Central. Details are included in today's agenda, and I want to thank Commissioner Norman Brown, who brought this idea to me probably over a year ago now, and he has continued to press us to move forward with this initiative. Metro North and Long Island Railroad customers no longer need a bike permit to travel with bikes, and this pilot is another way to encourage bike ridership throughout our region. And a thank you to our customers, and to get those who've been missing the trains back on board, Long Island Railroad and Metro North Railroad are continuing to offer plenty of deals and discounts for riders this fall. As we've been discussing for the past couple months, off-peak fares remain in effect throughout the end of the year, so the customers using single ride trips and 10-trip tickets can benefit from savings up to nearly 40% of the normal price depending upon the distance traveled. And as part of MTA's Welcome Back New York campaign, we continue with our Autumn Weekends promotion, which provides riders an affordable way to get out of the house, out of their cars, and onto the train for weekend trips. This fall program runs through Sunday, November 21st, available on both Saturdays and Sundays. We'll honor all monthly tickets system-wide on weekends, valid for travel to all stations and all fare zones. Monthly ticket holders traveling on those weekend days can bring up to 4 additional travelers for only $1 per person each way. Through October 27th, we also are offering a Friends and Family Wednesday promotion. Again, monthly ticketers can bring an extra person on board for up to $1. There are also discount packages to places like the Botanical Garden and the Lincoln Depot Museum, both located steps from Metro North Botanical Gardens, and Peekskill stations that are being offered as part of the new MTA Away deals. Riders can save on admissions to area attractions when riding on Metro North. Thank you, and this concludes my remarks for this month.
Thank you, Kathy. I have one question, and if I missed it, I apologize. Did we quantify how much the Ida storm damage caused to Metro North, and will all of that or most of that be reimbursed through FEMA?
Yeah, we have been working closely with MTA staff, both in the chairman's office, and in the budget office, to quantify all the damages associated with Ida, and we are seeking FEMA reimbursement for those charges.
Any other questions or comments to Kathy? Randy?
I was checking the schedules for the weekend. So some of the Hudson Line trains on Saturdays are disappearing, but there's still others that are going to continue on all 3 lines. It's like the shopper specials they used to run through Christmas. Are these going to be continued through that season?
We do have the shopper specials. Yeah, we're gonna reinstate the shopper specials towards the end of the year.
So
Yes.
we will be getting new timetables soon.
Towards the end, we'll be updating the timetables to reflect the shopper specials after Halloween.
Terrific.
Halloween,
Thank
not
you.
after Halloween, Thanksgiving.
I know the
sorry.
weekends are busy.
Yeah. But that's been the bright spot really throughout the pandemic, is weekday ridership has been what it has been, but weekend ridership really for over a year now has been very robust, and we're very happy to see that.
My neighbor said he's going back 4 days a week after the first of the year.
Oh, from hip slips to God's ears, that's great.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you, Kathy. Metro North Safety Report?
Thank you. So it's located from page 35 to 37. So our FRA reportable customer accident rate is at 1.81, which is down 6.2% from our previous reporting period. Our FRA reportable injuries currently stands at 1.92%, which is down 3.98%. We've had 0 grade crossing accidents. We've had 0 FRA mainline derailments and 0 FRA train collisions. Our training for our employees, safety hours at 16,477. And for our community outreach and tracks program, we've reached 7,135 outreach to customers. So that's a report from the safety report for Metro North. Any questions?
Any questions? Hearing none. Thank you. That brings us to Long Island Railroad agency report, and filling in for Phil today is Robert Free. Robert?
Thank you, Commissioner Lord. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to take a moment to remember one of our employees. Sadly, on September 27th, we lost a Long Island Railroad family member to COVID. Anthony Shue dedicated more than 2 decades to public service, joining the Long Island Railroad in 1998, working his way up to conductor in the transportation department. We extend our deepest condolences to Anthony's family, including his wife Melissa, their children Hunter, Tyler, and Gabriella. Please join me in keeping Anthony and his family in your thoughts and prayers, and all those who knew him at the railroad. Fall has arrived, and since the conclusion of last season, we've been preparing, applying lessons learned, and making improvements for what this season brings. Our multifaceted plan includes vegetation management, pressure washing the running rails, and a low adhesion desk for oversight and coordination. In addition, 2 years ago, we launched a first in the U.S., a laser train that zaps the pectin off our rails, which, as you may know, creates slippery conditions for our trains. This technology has proven immensely successful for keeping our trains running optimally while significantly reducing occurrences of flat wheels. In the end, this provides reliable service during adverse conditions and saves the railroad money. Last year, we added a second laser train and increased the speed to cover even more of our territory in shorter amounts of time. This year, we're building off the success we've had the last 2 years. We've worked closely with our vendor, improving maintainability and effectiveness of the laser, making the laser trains more reliable and maintenance more efficient. This means our laser trains will experience less downtime in between runs, which again saves us money while deploying the trains faster. In support of this effort, we'll be adjusting certain schedules in November on the Greenport and Ronkonkoma branches to coincide with a new timetable on November 9th. Customers will also see 2 added trains on the Port Washington branch, one in the AM peak and one in the PM peak, as well as minor adjustments on other branches. To further our system reliability, we are continuing to move forward with our stated good repair program, which significantly improves our operational performance and safety of the system. On the Port Washington branch, track surfacing and stated good repair work east of Great Neck for the weekend of November 6th, 7th, with bus service replacing trains as the track will be out of service to Port Washington. On the weekend of October 23rd, 24th, and 30th, 31st, both main tracks will be out of service for 48 hours between New Hyde Park and Hicksville for Queens interlocking switch project work. On the Montauk branch, November 3rd, 4th, PSE&G will be performing feeder cable work in support of our new Ocean substation at Rockville Center in the overnight hours affecting service. Switch installation work on the Hempstead branch for the weekends of November 6th, 7th, and 13th, 14th between Belrose and Floral Park. Busing will be in place for some of those customers. Lastly, on the Port Jefferson branch, we'll be carrying out a rail drop and other stated good repair work on November 13th, with bus service replacing trains between Huntington and Port Jefferson for a 24-hour period. A reflection of all the work we've been doing and will continue to do is our record OTP numbers. On-time performance for the month of September closed at 95.1%, which is above the monthly goal of 94%. 2021 year-to-date OTP is 96.1%, which is an increase of 0.2 percentage points as compared to last year. The most significant event affecting OTP in September was Tropical Storm Ida, which, as you know, produced record rainfall amounts impacting service for 2 days. This storm alone affected 283 days and reduced our monthly OTP by 1.5%. These figures, in addition to a safe, clean environment, are no doubt the reasons why people continue to return to the railroad. Ridership is holding above projections, with discretionary travel remaining robust. One area we've seen really promising growth is customers who are taking the train to area events. Some examples: summer ridership was at 70% of pre-pandemic levels. Year-to-date, approximately 150,000 customers have used our system to Metz Willets Point, with more than 72,000 of those in September alone. Compared to the last pre-pandemic season to Metz Willets, we're at nearly 81% of pre-pandemic ridership. In addition, there has been steady ridership to attend concerts at Forest Hill Stadium. We've carried more than 10,000 customers there since July. We also expect to see positive ridership from much anticipated opening of the UBS Arena in Elmont next month, home of the New York Islanders. This shows that people are trusting us to get them where they need to go safely and on time. With a workforce dedicated to customer service, our current OTP numbers, a clean and safe service, along with our stated good repair program, which will further improve our system, we're confident that we'll continue to see customers come back in addition to attracting new customers. Thank you. That concludes remarks, and I'll try to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Rob. If again, I didn't hear it. Where are we in terms of ridership today compared to pre-pandemic? I see in Metro North is hovering right around 50%. And where are we?
We're similar, 50%. It'll fluctuate here and there. On the weekends, on Saturdays, we usually seen about 70%, and on Sundays, we were as high as 80%. So, but about 150,000 weekday customers were moving, so which is about 50%.
Great. Thank you. Bob Lynn?
Thank you, Ken. I feel compelled to return to the issue that I've been talking about for months now, which is vaccinations. As we sit and mourn another tragic death, and a death that occurred 9 months after vaccines have become available that, for the most part, prevent COVID deaths. I think it's simply unacceptable that we continue in this direction. We see in New York City, we see that mandates work. We see that where there are mandates at the Department of Education, 95% of teachers are now vaccinated. I don't think we can continue this way. I think that if management were responsible for conditions that led to deaths and illness of workers, the unions would be going nuts over and with their decrying the unsafe conditions. We now have a situation that is dangerous, that leads to death, leads to illness of families, fellow workers, the public. We just can't continue with that. And I think we must get to a situation where the employees of the MTA are vaccinated. And I think we see it works where it's required. I think that we've given a length of time, we've given months and months for employees to get used to the concept. I think we need now to draw a line. And so I am going to be advocating throughout that we need to move towards a meaningful testing program, as long as we don't have an absolute mandate, and a program that's not just an audit or or an analysis here and there, but for any employee who is not vaccinated, they must demonstrate evidence of testing. And more than that, I think we need to get to a requirement. Thanks.
Kathy and Rob, do we have updated figures in terms of increases in vaccinated employees from the last meeting over the last month?
So we continue to be roughly at 70% of our employees vaccinated. That's, we continue to believe that there are people who have not uploaded their vaccination card, so that number could actually be a little bit higher. But we believe at this point, at least 70% of our employees are vaccinated. We have taken steps to try to encourage more people to get vaccinated, obviously, to your point. I mean, we want people to be safe, and we want their families to be safe. So we, I guess a week and a half ago, I was the executive sponsor of an education event along with Michael Garner to try to encourage people to get more facts with respect to the vaccines and the safety of the vaccines, and then we followed that up with a pop-up vaccination van that came to our Highbridge location in the Bronx. There are other locations throughout the entire MTA territory that are making vaccinations available, and to your point, we have this vaccination or test program that we're ramping up, but we hovered about 70% at this point.
Rob?
We're about 62%, and same thing with us. The testing program has been rolled out. We're seeing more and more participation. We're getting the locations up and running, and we're vigorously promoting vaccinations and testing for all our employees.
Jerry?
I have two quick comments. One, as we're trying to get ridership back in, and as I talk to fellow commuters, one of the problems, particularly as you get out towards where I live in diesel territory east of Babylon, there's significant gaps in the service, and it makes it, in some cases, even better to drive than to try and take the train. In the morning, we have two options. A train that will get you in at 7:02 or a train that will get you in at 8:23. That's an hour and 21-minute gap. We had lesser gaps during off-peak hours in the past, and now this is prime time, and you got an hour and 20 minutes. In the evening, we have a similar situation. If you missed the 5:51 train, your next train home is 7:30. That's an hour and 39-minute gap, and we're still considering 4 to 8 rush hour, even though we're, at off-peak fares. That's a big gap, and it's something I think we really need to look at. And I'm trying to verify this, but I also believe that we run a train out as an equipment train that could be used as a revenue train. We have two dual modes that go in the morning, and apparently I think we only have one dual mode, the 509, that goes out at night. So apparently you're running the train that used to be the 627 train, which filled this gap in the past. You're running it out there with an engineer, maybe not a crew, but you're still running it out for the morning run. So maybe just adding, a conductor and a trainman, make that a revenue train and run it back at 627, I think would go a long way to filling some of our gaps. And again, I don't know how you would handle the morning gap, but perhaps maybe a train in between that would run to Babylon, and you could pick up a Babylon train. The other suggestion I had, and maybe this is more for the Capital Committee, but now that Governor Hochul has stuck a fork in the LaGuardia Air Train, I think we should try and move forward with getting Willets Point Station. You actually mentioned Willets Point and the number of people going through there. Getting it as an accessible station. This is something that's kind of an embarrassment in 2021 that we have a station that services the U.S. Tennis Center and Citi Field, and it's not accessible. We understand that there were plans made. I think you even have drawings somewhere, and they got put on hold when the Port Authority decided that would be a good place for the air train. But I think now that that's pretty much dead in the water, I think we should revisit making Willets Point accessible as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. We'll bring that second issue up in CPOC maybe later today. Any other comments or questions? Robert, one last question, just putting you on the spot since you mentioned it, and the NHL season has started, and the new Islanders Arena is still scheduled to open up in November. Will the new station be done by opening night? And I know it's only westbound initially.
Actually, it's eastbound, Kevin, yes. Everything's leading to a good opening for the Islanders, a good homecoming, opening puck drop, as we like to say. But yes, it'll be on the eastbound side. The station will be opened up, which you can take Hempstead trains, and we'll have some shuttle trains out of Jamaica going to the arena. Eventually, at some point next year, there'll be westbound service. There are talks about providing some other type of westbound service, but we're trying to figure out the logistics of that. But everything is on schedule as of right now.
Great. Do we have a race? What gets done first, the station or the arena?
I'm not a betting man.
Okay. Safe answer. Very good. All right. Thank you, Robert. We have the Long Island Railroad Safety Report. Who's handling that? Lori?
I'll take a stab at it. Thanks, Kevin.
Good day, yeah. I think you have a little experience in that area.
We're reporting on our safety performance through the end of August 2021. It's found on page 38 of your book. Our average reportable customer injury rate was 3.34 injuries per million customers, and that's as compared to 4.61 injuries over the same period last year. For employee lost time injuries, that stood at 3.79 injuries per 200,000 hours worked, as compared to 3.06 per 200,000 hours worked from the period before. Just a couple of items of note. I want to, again, put a pitch in there for our school safety contests this year. Thank Jerry Bringman for helping us to promote it with the PTAs out on Long Island and that community. And also wanted to extend an invitation to those that are members of the homeschool community to also submit their creative ideas for our superhero contest. Also want to express my appreciation. The month of September, we had unprecedented community engagement. regarding masks and welcoming people back to work and back to school. So I want to express my appreciation to my colleagues in the stations, transportation, and the corporate safety department, as well as our partners at MTA Police, the amazing MTA Police Explorers, the Federal Railroad Administration, and the New York State Department of Transportation Public Transportation Safety Board. Everybody was out there engaging with customers, engaging with the community, welcoming back, and reminding everybody about the importance of wearing masks as they're using our system. And happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Any questions for Lori? Hearing none. Thank you very much. Do we have somebody here from the police for the MTA police report? Chief who?
Chief McGrath's remote.
Oh, hey, Chief.
Okay, finally on board. Good morning, everyone. For the month of September, the overall crime situation in the MTA world is 19 crimes versus 14 for 2020. The numbers, of course, remain skewed as they have been well since the pandemic. I just jumped down to the year-to-date numbers. For example, it shows that we have 110 major felonies year-to-date versus 90 in 2020, which indicates an increase. But if you go back to 2019, it's more reflective of where we are. We're actually down 58 crimes, or 34%. For the Long Island Railroad, it's the same situation. 51 crimes for 2021 versus 49 for 2020. But compared to 2019, it's up against 66. So it's actually a reduction of 15 crimes. And with Metro North, a similar situation where we're actually down about 30 crimes versus 2019. And although grand larcenies remain our most stubborn of crimes, what's of particular concern to me right now are the felony assaults. Felony assaults on our employees, both conductors and police officers. Of the 28 crimes that we have listed, half of them are on our employees, 10 on police officers making arrests, and 4 of them on conductors. For my own police officers, I stress the training that they've received in de-escalation. When they come across a combative individual, to try to calm the situation down rather than jumping to force immediately. We've increased the amount of officers going to the de-escalation training, and in fact, officers that find themselves assaulted after the fact, we recommend that they go for some refresher course. As far as conductors, I've been in touch with Michael Metz from Metro North Security about doing some type of de-escalation training in that regard, and Bob Murphy from the Long Island Railroad Security in regards to the same situation. Fortunately, and for whatever reason, we have no incidents of felonious assaults against our officers or any employees in Staten Island. However, it remains a particular concern because of the danger involved. We had one recently in the month of October, which is unreported, of course, in this reporting period, against one of our conductors in Metro North Railroad. That the individual involved has been identified, and my detectives are up in the Bronx right now searching for that person. We were fortunate that the conductor wasn't more seriously injured, although I understand she did require a number of stitches. And of course, our condolences go out to her, and any assistance that we can give her or any other of our employees will be certainly put forth. As far as going forward with the mask enforcement, we have been doing mask enforcement throughout the entire system, and I thank Metro North for their kind remarks regarding our explorers and our officers participating. We have not issued a tremendous number of summonses. I think the word gets out very quickly, particularly in Penn Station, where we've given out probably the most summonses, and people, the moment they see the police, realize that, you know, it's a $50 ticket or just put the mask on. What they do after they leave us and enter the system, we try to monitor by having officers do their step-ons and step-offs at different platforms throughout the system, and we do have officers riding the trains to ensure compliance. But we do recommend that the conductors, although they may mention it, they may even point out to particular individuals, you know, you have to put your mask on and wear it properly, that they're not yet involved in taking any type of serious enforcement action along those lines. Leave that to the police and call us. If we can get to the train before the individual gets off, we will certainly take that person off the train ourselves and issue the summons. Do we have any questions?
Any questions for the chief?
Yeah, you may have stated it and just slipped by me. But of the felony assaults, particularly on employees, how many of them were preceded by a mask interaction where they were asking somebody to just wear the mask and that person rebelled and confronted a conductor or another employee?
At this point, I show one incident where that situation occurred. Officers responded and had to take that individual into custody and remove him from the train. And that's out of the 4 conductor incidents that I have right now.
All right, thank you.
Bob Lynn?
Thank you. Chief, I see that September was a particularly difficult month on Metro North. The Long Island Railroad is actually down in total major felonies from 9 to 6, but that at Metro North, total major felonies are up from 5 to 13. Is it your view that this is sort of the random act of small numbers, or is something significant occurring recently in Metro North operations?
You're correct in that we are up 8 crimes versus 2020, but when you compare it to 2019, which I think is probably a little more reflective, we're actually up maybe 3 crimes for the month of September. But then again, you look back at year to date on Metro North, and we're down significantly compared to 2019. So I don't see any trends. I don't see any patterns emerging, although we're constantly analyzing the data as it comes in. We have not recognized any location in particular on the Metro North line, as opposed to maybe Long Island Railroad, where Jamaica seems to be a focal point. Babylon Station is another focal point. I don't seem to have any of those particularly hardcore locations on Metro North outside of Grand Central.
Kathy, something to add?
Yeah, I mean, I feel the need to weigh in on this whole issue of conductor assault, since it's such a, it's a critical issue for us. I mean, we are calling upon our conductors and our frontline personnel to do more than ever before. And they need to know, and all of you need to know, that we are absolutely committed to making the environment out there as safe as possible. We already do provide de-escalation training. We're obviously looking to beef that up, now that we have, to somebody's point, this issue of mask compliance. So making the training as relevant as possible, but also partnering with the chief, partnering with Pat Warren to ensure that there's an adequate, visible law enforcement presence to deter any such misbehavior. As I said, we are calling upon our employees to do more than ever before. It's a very tense environment out there because of mask compliance and vaccinations and all of that stuff. Why should the railroad be different from the rest of the world? But we need to partner with each other, with labor, with PD, to be able to ensure that we're creating as safe an environment as possible for our employees. It's just, that's non-negotiable. It's got to be done.
Jerry?
Yeah, Chief McGrath, I just want to actually issue a compliment. Several months ago, maybe a few months ago, the Long Island Railroad Commuter Council had requested that you station a police officer at the top of the 33rd Street exit or entrance to Penn Station, which you did. And I've had to use that entrance and exit for the last 3 working days, and I've noticed there are no homeless people up there. No one is harassing any of the customers coming up for money. There's always 1 or 2 officers stationed there, so apparently they're doing their job. And it's for my fellow commuters, we greatly appreciate it, because there were people who actually, we spent millions of dollars on this brand new entrance to the station. There were people avoiding using it because they didn't want to be harassed, and that seems to be no longer a problem. So I wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you. We heard the complaints, and in conjunction with the Penn Station authorities, people up there, they helped construct that police booth that we now have there. They also took care of those square cubes that they had out front that they were using as kind of a lounging point or a hangout area. But you bring up another issue for us. Colder weather is coming in. We're well aware of our challenges dealing with the homeless situation, and we're starting to focus our efforts on maintaining what we've already gained ground on. So thank you. It's well noted.
Great. Anything else for the chief? All right. Thank you, Chief, for your report.
Thank you.
Kathy and Rob, we have a bunch of agency information items. Anything you want to bring to our attention that's not already in the book?
Sure. For Metro North, we have the 2022 preliminary budget. They were presented at the July MTA board meeting and are available on the website. It appears on the committee's agenda for this month to provide an opportunity for public comment. We have the joint PTC project update, which presents highlights for project implementation and closeouts. I've already alluded to the progress that we've made on the Waterbury, but I'm happy to answer any other questions that people might have about the PTC project.
Well, for those of us who didn't get through all 500 pages of the materials that were sent to us for these committee meetings, yes, any highlights on PTC that we should be aware of?
So the two things I mentioned. Number one, as the committee already knows, that we're operating on the Waterbury branch pursuant to an exclusion, but we have finished the installation of the underlying signal system and will be completing the PTC functionality and getting that in by the end of the year. So it reflects a lot of good work by our MW forces and just a lot of really good progress. So that's sort of issue number one. Issue number two, over the course of the last year or so, we've struggled with the reliability of the PTC system on our MA fleet. Improved considerably with a software update that we got a couple months back. There's another software update coming at the end of December, which should realize further improvements on our MA fleet, which is really the workhorse on our New Haven line. So those are the two most significant updates in our PTC report.
Rob, anything to add on PTC for Long Island Railroad?
No, nothing significant. Both properties continue to be FRA compliant with the PTC systems, making just minor software tweaks to the systems as we come across things. And there hasn't been any operational impacts due to PTC, and interoperability maintains good.
And do we have any new Lumen federal deadlines when it comes to PTC?
There are some conditions of our safety plan that we're working towards with respect to certain additional functionality, and we continue to work with the FRA and report on those, but nothing major with respect to compliance.
Yes, beginning January, there's a slight change in the ability for a train to go out onto main track, what constitutes a failure, but it's not anything significant in terms of that. It's a minor. It's invisible to the customers.
Kathy, you want to share with us?
I do. I have a bunch more. So the first is the track program quarterly update, which I alluded to in my remarks. It's in the book. If anybody has any questions, Dave Malillo is here to answer. Okay. The next information item relates to a disposition of land associated with the Breakneck Ridge hiking trail, which is right near our Breakneck Ridge station. It's an information item seeking authorization to convey approximately 2.4 acres of MTA property to the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. The property has been used by the public for decades to access the state's Breakneck Ridge trailhead. We're retaining an easement for our operations since the Hudson Line trains pass right through the tunnel below the trailhead. Our Breakneck Ridge station is the gateway to this very popular trailhead, so we're very happy to be able to partner with Parks in this transaction. Finally, I already mentioned it in my remarks, there's a information item associated with the bike storage pilot permit, which is going to be in the old taxi stand at Grand Central. It's a one-year pilot program with modular streetscape systems to install, operate, and maintain a bike pod in the taxiway off of Vanderbilt Avenue for bike storage. It provides a higher level of security for bike owners, and we're really pleased to be able to bring this forward. So that concludes the Metro North information items.
All right, and those last two are information items. We don't need to take any
Nope,
action on them?
no need to take
Are those
votes.
real estate items that'll be addressed
Yes.
in Finance Committee?
Yep.
Thank you. Long Island Railroad information item?
Nothing further.
Thank you. Let's go to procurements. Metro North?
Yeah. Anthony Gardner is going to report on this procurement.
Yeah, good morning. Metro North has one competitive procurement in this month's package. We are requesting board approval for a contract modification in the not-to-exceed amount of $1,760,000 to the firm KS Engineers. They happen to be a certified MBE, minority business enterprise, to provide additional inspection services to include retaining walls and transmission poles and towers throughout Metro North's Harlem, Hudson, and New Haven line territory. Due to recent severe storms that were highlighted by President Rinaldi, they damaged utility poles and caused storm-related mudslides and that damaged retaining walls throughout Metro North's territory. The amount and severity of storms over the past few years has escalated, requiring an increase in the frequency of routine inspections of retaining walls and transmission poles. May I please have a vote on this procurement in the package? Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, I'm told by my people in the area that the mudslide was very predictable in that area from the employee's point of view, and that it's very well known that there's many areas in Metro North Territory that are in jeopardy of this sort of collapse. There's nothing wrong with, I guess, hiring more inspectors to do this stuff. But don't we already have a hit parade of capital projects to protect us from these sort of things? And how are we progressing on that?
Okay, so I guess the answer would be yes and no. We did have some culvert replacement projects that were in the current capital program, so we will obviously be advancing those because, you know, the vulnerability of the culvert near Dobbs Ferry has really reinforced the importance of focusing on those projects. But I think, you know, Ida was a real wake-up call with respect to just the overall vulnerability, for lack of a better word, of the Hudson Line. We did do an inspection program right after the storm, just to ensure that there were no immediate safety issues. There was one issue with one retaining wall that we're going to need to address. With respect to the mudslide locations, there were actually 3 separate ones. The one that I think was the most problematic for purposes of recovering service was the southernmost one. And our team continues to work with the private landowner who is up at the top of that mudslide in terms of the work that they're doing to stabilize that location. But I do think, you know, back to my wake-up call comment, you know, we're you know, recognizing the need to be very focused on resiliency projects, frankly, across the territory, not just on the Hudson Line. And we've been working with C&D and the capital planning group within C&D to be very proactive with respect to scoping out potentially other projects that will be necessary to be able to stabilize the railroad.
All good, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. What's next? We have none from the Long Island Railroad?
No
Procurements?
procurements, no.
But we have MTA, C&D procurement. Who's handling that? David? Yep.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Construction and Development has 2 procurement actions totaling $44.6 million being brought to the Metro North and Long Island Railroad Joint Committee this month. Both items are in the competitive section. The first item requests approval to award a competitively solicited and negotiated design-build contract to Railroad Construction Company in the amount of $16,663,538 for the removal and replacement of the Cherry Valley Avenue Bridge located in Garden City on the Long Island Railroad's Hempstead branch. This contract will replace the 1906 bridge, which exhibits a variety of deficiencies due to weathering and bridge strikes, with one that will have a higher clearance area for vehicular traffic traveling underneath it. 7 firms submitted proposals, and the proposal submitted by Railroad Construction Company was deemed to be the most advantageous to the MTA and provided the best value. The second item requests approval of a modification to the East Side Access Program Management Consultant Contract with AECOM USA Incorporated in the amount of $27,996,042 for additional funding and the addition of an option for the final closeout of all ESA contracts. The additional funding for the current option is required as a result of extended durations for certain construction contracts, the impact of certain development projects, and scope additions, all detailed in the staff summary. The option period to be exercised at C&D's sole discretion extends the contract term past the ESA revenue service date to allow AECOM to assist in the closeout process of ESA construction contracts. The funding for this modification is available in the East Side Access project budget. These items are submitted for your consideration and vote.
Thank you, David. I'll move them. David Mack
Second.
seconds. Any comments or questions for David? I have one just clarification. The first one, the Garden City, that's normal capital budget type of project that has nothing to do with the third track, correct?
Correct. Nothing, it has nothing to do with the third track. This is a separate project.
Got it. Thank you. And can we do this in one resolution, Council? Both ACOM and the railroad, or are we taking two separate votes?
I'm sorry, I'm referring you to Evan, who is General Counsel for C&D.
One vote is good? Okay, we motion a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Agency heads, any other information you want to share with us related to the other information in the MNR reports and the Long Island Railroad reports?
Our monthly reports on operations, performance metrics, finance, ridership, and capital program are in the agenda book, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have on any of those reports.
Any questions for Metro North? Hearing none. Robert?
Same thing, Kevin.
Any questions for Robert? Jerry?
Yeah, I just have one question regarding the third track project. I understand that the Garden City is playing hardball with us, not giving us permits to proceed with certain work. What is our game plan at this point? Or if you don't want to tip your mitt, I can understand that too, but how are we going to deal with Garden City to keep rolling?
Well, Jerry, Evan might be better suited to answer that answer as it's a C&D project that deals with the municipalities.
So there is an injunction, an article, not an Article 78. There is a motion pending to force Garden City to issue the permit that we need to do the work. I think it's been with the court now for approximately 75 or so days. We expect a decision shortly, but that is really the holdup at this point.
All right. Is there any other business that any other member of this committee, joint committee, wants to raise? Hearing none, I'll move to adjourn, seconded by Bob Lynn. All in favor? Thank you very much. See you at Finance or Transit or CPOC or any other committee meeting you got.